Hey, what's this scene? I am Reon, and this is Fazeers Tease. This is Fazeers Tease. And this is Fazeers Tease. And this is Fazeers Tease. Welcome to Fazeers Tease, where we have conversations that matter with people who care. Join me as I connect and reconnect with new and old friends as we sip tea, spill tea, and catch up on everything that's going on in their lives and in the world. So like, subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell notification so you never miss a single drop. Alright, so hi guys, and welcome back to Fazeers Tease, where we have conversations that matter with people who care. Today, well, welcome to the first show. The first show with a guest, so the second show technically. And today's guest is none other than my dear friend Fazeer Rojan. Fazeer, you know, there's nobody else I'd want to have as my first guest because I wouldn't have started YouTube if it wasn't for you to begin with. So welcome to the channel.
Thank you very much, and I just want to put the term dear friend into context and let your viewers know from the get-go that my wife is the angel in my family's eyes, and you're the only person who ever takes my side. I am also delighted to be your first guest, Reon, if for nothing at all but for the fact that you're the only friend I have that takes my side.
No, that's something. That's definitely something. So
It counts.
It counts for a lot, and trust me, I've been there. And the thing is, like, before I had ever been to any of your family gatherings, like, you would say that to me, and like I would laugh it off, and then having witnesses like, you really need some backup. So I'm glad to be that backup for you.
Thank you very much. She has managed to win them all over, and you've done the same for me, so thank you.
Lovely. So Fizzy, let's jump straight into it. As I said, I really wanted you to be my first guest. As I said before, so doing on YouTube is something that I have been thinking about doing for years, and my first appearance on YouTube was not on this channel, but rather on your channel, Fuzz Entertainment, which I'm going to link below. So I just want to start off by thanking you for that opportunity. Had it not been for that particular series we did, where we did the most commonly asked questions, non-Hindus how about Hinduism, that really like turned the light bulb on in my head when it came to what I wanted to do. Because doing YouTube is something that friends have been suggesting to me to do for years, and for me, like, I never wanted to be the guy just sitting down in his bedroom with the camera talking foolishness, which is cool, but it just wasn't the lane I wanted to go in. And you helped me to realize that that quest of talking and connecting and learning and sharing and seeking knowledge is the route I wanted to go down. So thank you for that opportunity, and I hope I make you proud. So Fazeer, I know you've been a radio announcer for the last 18 years, is that correct?
That is correct.
Can you tell us that story, the journey of how you decided to become a radio announcer? What made you decide to become a radio announcer?
I used to look at Clark Kent and Lois Lane at the Daily Planet, and I always loved the fact that their job took them out of the office. And initially I wanted to be a journalist, not necessarily get into radio to be an announcer, but I wanted to be a journalist. And I knew this since I was very young. When I started doing A-levels, I was 15 going on 16, and there was an ad on the radio. Holly Thomas and Edison Carr were offering radio broadcasting classes at the Broadcast Academy in Woodbrook. And at 16, I applied, and I was turned down because they said that I was too young. I picked up the phone, I called Holly Thomas, and I begged him on the phone, and he didn't want to entertain it, but he said, come see me, right? And I got on a bus. I had never been to Port of Spain on my own. I got on a bus with a close by. We went to Port of Spain, took a taxi, went to French Street, and I walked in that afternoon to meet Holly Thomas. I met him, I stated my case, I begged, I pleaded, and he saw my passion, and he said, you know, despite the fact that I was 16, he will accept me in the class.
That's great, that's amazing.
Yeah, so I got in, and by the time I was actually finished with A-levels, I started working in retail for like 3 months after that. And within the first 3 months, I got a call. I had applied and sent in a demo to the station that I work at now.
Oh, wow.
They had a promotion happening, and I went in, and I honestly didn't think that I was going to make it in. There was a competition called these DJ Days, and I remembered exactly what I thought that night because I was blown away by the irony of it. During the demo, which was live on radio, I said to myself, there is no way that this little boy from Gasparilla, who has no connections with anybody, has no anything, no sphere of influence. I am legitimately a nobody in everybody else's eyes. There's no way that this boy is going to make it in. So I am going to enjoy my 20 minutes of radio time and have a blast of a time. And I sang on the people's radio station like beat table the way you would in a bar.
Oh wow!
And that sort of stuff. And unbeknownst to me, that actually works because they were like, oh, this guy has personality and he's not just trying to put on a nice voice. And it works.
Oh wow. I didn't know you were at the same station for the last 18 years. That's incredible. What I find very, very interesting from the research I did about you, the question I want to put to you is that a lot of people criticize my generation saying that we tend to want success overnight. And I know that you went from, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I know that you went from the graveyard shift to the weekend shift, then to the morning drive, then to management.
Right.
What took you through each level? Because I'm sure when you get in there, once you got in and you realize, okay, well, they chose me, I have something. I think a lot of people think that they're going to be a success overnight, that they're going to be that guy on the morning drive the next day. Yeah. When you were the guy on the graveyard shift, what kept you going?
So looking back, I could say that the guy in the graveyard shift and the guy now, they're pretty much the same person, with the exception that, let me put it another way, you could be all that is required of you to be successful, but timing is also really important, I'm not sure, if you believe in, the universe paving the way for you and all that sort of stuff, but sometimes you just have to be patient. Now, in my instance, it was a combination of patience, some self-confidence, because in the early stages I needed to work on my own confidence, but I also needed time to learn. I needed time to be mentored somewhat. I needed time to grow as an individual.
But did you know that then, though, when you were in that moment? Did you know that then, or were you in your mind like, oh God, when I can be the morning drive guy?
No, in my early years, I had real lingering self-esteem issues from my teenagers. And I didn't have that amount of confidence, so I didn't think that I would make it in that regard, or make it far. I didn't see past a particular point. So it wasn't like I knew that I was destined for something here, but I knew that what I was doing at the point in time, I was really good at it, and I was making the best of it. And I it might sound unambitious per se, but I at that time wasn't thinking past maybe a year or 2 years ahead kind of thing. I was focused on the present and making this work.
And now that you are the guy in management, what would you say to the guy in the graveyard shift? If you could give advice, not necessarily to the younger Fazeer, but to all the young Fazeers coming up there, not necessarily in radio, but in any stage of life, that person who's at the entry level and really wants to be that superstar, what would you say to them? Well,
firstly, I'm no longer in management actually, because after I got married in 2015, for 1 more year in management before I quit, because I needed time to build a foundation in the marriage, and my work hours were crazy. I was heading in for 6 in the morning, so I'm leaving home at 4:35, and I had dual portfolios. I was still on air and in management. We were on the road that year for 33 weeks of 52 in the year, and I was in charge of all the station's events. So my wife barely saw me in the first year of our marriage, and I knew that something had to give, and it wasn't going to be my marriage. So I had enough time in management, but in that particular portfolio, I wanted to make a year, and I explained that to my wife, and I said, I need to finish this year so I could have done a complete calendar of events within this year so that I have that experience under my belt and that goes on my resume. So full circle, I left management for about the next 2 years. After that, my wife and I just kind of balance and enjoyed life and enjoyed marriage and set up a really nice foundation for ourselves.
Right.
And we our minds and we wanted to start business together, and that's right after we were done having enough fun, we started business. But getting back to your question about what would I say to not necessarily myself but younger and upcoming ones, I would say firstly that your greatest enemy is your ego. And this is not just for people in broadcasting, but for most people otherwise, artists, entertainment industry, even vloggers, for instance, right? You can't let your ego get the better of you. Like, one of the things that is a pet peeve of mine, I hate to hear somebody say, well, it's your boy Reon, it's your boy, you're not my boy.
To say it, I hope I don't sound ridiculous. I don't know who this man is. I mean, he could be walking down the street, I wouldn't know a thing. Sorry to this man.
We don't have the relationship yet. You know, like for real, like that in itself is a signal of an overinflated ego for me, you know. So like, just for the boot camp, I remember we would have spoken about authenticity, you know, being your authentic self. That's the second bit of advice. The opposite of being led by the ego is finding your authentic self and being unafraid to be yourself. Because here's the thing, right? Many of us will try to emulate somebody else. We think that, hey, this
absolutely
does that, you know? So you want to borrow a page from them, you know, imitation is the best form of flattery. But the truth is, there can only be that one person, and what you have to believe that what you have is something that is relatable to people. Because from the moment you veer off that course, people could smell a rat. You are fake, you are pretentious. The most important thing is authenticity.
Let me tell you why I'm laughing. I don't know if you remember this. I don't know if you know this, but I think I told you when we were filming the series on Hinduism. For the first couple of takes, I swear to you, I was trying to be Oprah. I kid you not.
I love bread.
And you knew that, because let me tell you what you said. I remember we were doing a couple of takes, and I was also ill that day. I don't remember, I wasn't well. I was sleeping in the back of the van. Right.
Yeah.
But aside from like sickness, because I could push through sickness to give energy. The energy that I was giving you was me trying to be Oprah Winfrey, and you stopped a take. You said, "Hey, where's Reon? Where's that sparkle? Like, I called you here because I wanted that spark." I was like, well, Fazeer, you know, I feel like this is a serious situation, so I think I have to give you Oprah. And it's like, no, I didn't call for Oprah. I called for Reon.
Yeah, and you know the incredulous thing about that is that so many of us have that sparkle, Reon. We have that sparkle. We have that thing that makes us so unique. And even if you go back to Oprah's story, Oprah will tell you that she was trying to emulate the big
Walter.
And she says, I'm quick to check a bitch if she is out of line. Are you the bitch she's singing about?
Don't know.
She was trying to be.
Yeah.
That's the irony.
She was trying to
I know that. So that's the irony. Like, you were trying to emulate somebody who literally went through a story and letting people know that does not work.
Yeah, so man, like the single biggest bit of advice to anybody in any field, and this applies even to politicians too, you know, just be your authentic self. And I use them as the example because, you know, we fresh off of an election, and what I saw from you know, somebody who's paying attention to public speakers, what I saw was a whole bunch of young people stepping up, which in itself is commendable. But what they're doing is, when they take the microphone, when they go to the podium, they are doing what they think they need to do to elicit a reaction. So they're going there and they're using all the catchphrases and the war cries and everything else. But after the meeting, if you ask the public, so what have you walked away with after that person spoke?
Okay, great gowns, beautiful gowns.
There's nothing but empty rhetoric because they've said 1,000 words, but they've said nothing.
Putting on a show. Now, jumping off of the conversation about the series that we did, I know that you do on your channel. We had our series on Hinduism, and then you also had your series called Iftar Insights.
Welcome to the first installment of the video series known as Iftar Insights.
So my question is, when we did the series on Hinduism, a lot of my Hindu friends reached out to me and told me that they learned things that they didn't know about Hinduism watching the show, and they're Hindus. So I'm just curious, when you did Iftar Insights, is there anything you learned about Islam that you didn't know before?
I learned that as much as we may have thought that Trinidad and Tobago has a small community of Muslims and we all believe in the same thing, we don't all observe the belief in the same way. And what I mean by that is every single mosque that we visited, they all had a different culture that was dependent or that was derived from the people, the community, and the needs of that people. And I'll give you 3 quick examples. One, in Endeavour, that masjid culture is one where when they cook for the iftar, because they all grew up in some sort of poverty, when they cook, they don't just cook for the Muslims who come to the masjid. They cook for the community, all the houses around the masjid. And they don't cook, and then what's left, they send for them, you know. They cook and they prepare food and they send the food out. And the exact thing the Imam of that masjid said to me was, when we eat, our neighbors eat. And I was blown away by that.
I love that.
And then you have an example of, we went to Kumana, and up in Kumana, that culture totally ripped me to pieces in the most positive way, but it tore apart everything that I thought I knew about Islam before, because the people in Kumana were telling me that in Kumana, Islam begins with a meal. So you can't come to talk to anybody about God without first, and any faith for that matter, without first taking care of their basic human need for food. So
Understood.
because of the distance that people have to traverse to get to that masjid, when they have an iftar at the masjid, they do the same thing. They box their food and they sit out, because some people just can't afford the ride from their house to the mosque to come for that meal. So they deliver the food even if the people can't come to the masjid to pray, because the food is more important. You know?
Understood.
So those were like real mind blows for me. And then I think another shocker came in Toko Road Masjid, where you go to some masjids and they have what they call pardas or borders between the men and the women. Mm-hmm. And in that masjid there is so mixed with people of varying levels of faith and who practice different things, that the Imam said that right now, if you were to put a big border ply or some sort of barricade between the men and the women, it could cause some, there could be some conflict in the mosque, some discomfort, unease, and that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. So instead of starting with a wall, he started literally with a rope. The man just ran a rope to separate, the way you have one of those things in the bank that separates the lanes. He said he'd start with that, and then he'll graduate to where he gets to like a little picket fence, a little something, and he'll keep increasing it. But he blew me away because of his leadership style, and I was like, this is incredible. This is a man who understands that change happens in increments. So to answer your question, every single mosque had a different way of observing the same thing. This had nothing to do with the faith, but the cultural way that they appreciated and observed the faith.
And I like that, because I think sometimes we think about religions and our mental image of them is very rigid, and I love hearing that. And sometimes that rigidity is real, sometimes it is perceived, and sometimes when it is real, it comes from the top down. So it's very interesting and very good to hear that there are leaders in the faith who understand where yielding makes sense and where that flexibility makes sense to meet people where they are.
It wasn't across the board, but it was where it was met with great surprise and a lot of respect. To put it that way. You spoke about rigidity there, Reon, and I'm sure you will have realized that I've been over the years very passionate about the blatant and extra blatant these days racism and bigotry and that sort of stuff in the country, and that mindset is the root of all of it. you see that mindset of having that sort of rigidity. That rigidity comes usually from people who have never been exposed to different perspectives, to different people, to different cultures, and
they establish that belief and they pass it down.
Correct. But you see, racism is something that we could unlearn, because all it takes, like I spent some time like researching the subject matter, and if, for instance, the HDC, as an example, started in a manner where they said, you know what, we are going to ensure that in every apartment next to each other, there are people of different races, religions, cultures, etc. Do you know that would be one of the fastest ways to get people out of that mindset? Because when you live in a mixed community, you stop being afraid. Because one of the reasons that so many people are afraid and are racist is because they fear that which they do not know.
That they do not know.
You believe all these stereotypes. So if you're living in Bebe or if you're living in Laventille, and these areas don't have, the population is all homogeneous, they all look the same, then anything like that becomes scary. And before they arrive, before the person arrives, what arrives is all of the prejudice and the stereotype. That shows up. And we believe that before they come.
Right.
You know, so even in that vein, sorry to just sort of stray like that, but even in that vein,
no, that's absolutely
yeah. That rigidity, Reon, is our biggest problem. Boy, we need to create a culture that allows for people to be a lot more open-minded, and we need to cultivate that liberty, because if we leave it to the forces that be, there are many people who profit and who benefit from us continuing to be in this divide that we're in, and we have to start taking more deliberate measures to really just make it normal, you know.
Trust me, I understand, and I can agree with that completely. I think the way that I grew up and like the school that I went to, because coming from Matura and then going to school in Port of Spain would have been a completely different like cultural shift for me, and I got to and I was exposed and I met people from all different walks of life there. So like you said, I grew up having Hindu friends, Muslim friends. There's a Muslim friend of mine who I would go to his house to eat. He'd come to my house for Christmas. Friends from all different creeds and races that make up our country. So I think I completely agree with you because I've lived it. And I see it to be true. Now,
but I'm sure even in your experience, Reon, you would find that all Muslims are not made up the same, all Hindus are not made the same, all Christians.
Absolutely.
For such a small country, the subculture is incredible, because somebody who is a Muslim in Kumana and somebody who is a Muslim in Cedros, it's totally different to the person who is in Central or in Port of Spain or in any other part of the country.
It's totally different. Point blank, period.
It's like all of these communities have their own culture, and there is not one homogeneous culture across Trinidad and Tobago. When they say it's a melting pot, it really is melting pot.
Because even in the subsets, there are subsets.
The fact that we've been able to get to this point and not have had, the sort of discord that, for instance, that exists in Guyana right now, that is incredible, and we still have to be very thankful for that. I mean, things are bad, but they could be worse.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah.
So there are different segments here that I'm working on, and one of them is where we do like rapid response questions. However, I will say to you, if you feel like any of these questions deserves a longer answer, that's fine. We are calling this segment Fazeers Tease, right? All these questions, Fazeers Tease. All these questions are based on your blog. Yes?
Sure.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So your first season of your blog had 4 headings: motivation, men, media, and marriage. Yes?
Yes.
How do you stay motivated?
I stay motivated. I've always said to people, when I present inspirational messages that I do on radio, I have always maintained that they are firstly a reminder to myself before it is for anybody else. In other words, I've never gone on air and try to motivate or inspire anybody, because I think I am speaking from a position of superiority or a superior, morality or anything like that. All these messages are for me, firstly, because I am the biggest sinner. And I've always said that I'm the biggest sinner. I'm the biggest, I've made the most mistakes. I'm starting from that vantage point. So when I share this information, this is me correcting me on the People radio station. And whoever else's garden it falls into, then great. But it is always me correcting me first, publicly. It's like a public admonition. And the message thereafter is for everybody else.
Nice. What's the best piece of marriage advice you've ever received?
Don't try to understand, man. So there is a Muslim saying, I think it's Quran, I'm not sure, right? That we are commanded as men to love them, but don't try to understand them. And I remember the first time I read about that, I was hosting a wedding, a Muslim wedding, and I said to the wedding, listen, if the Lord threw his hands up in the air and said, don't try to understand, I'm not trying again, I'm done.
Nice. One of my favorite books is Things I Wish I Knew Before I Got Married. What is one thing you wish you knew before you got married?
I actually tackled that subject in the vlogs, and I think nobody prepares you. Like, you hear about all the things, the small things that you don't hear about, and I think in my instance it was the hair. Like there's hair all over, bro.
Fazeer!
I'm rolling hair on the bed. I go to the bathroom, right, and there's hair. And I even said this on one of the vlogs, right? And my wife she was the one behind the cameras, and this is legit, right?
Yeah.
I would go to the bathroom, bro, and I'm pulling hair out of my butt crack.
Oh my God.
My hair. Get there. How is there so much hair all over, and she still has hair on her head? That is not, and the maths don't add up.
The maths don't add up, and it's not yours. You're sure it's not yours?
Not mine. It's not mine, and I'll tell you, right. My wife has. I know it's hers because she has the weirdest hair colors, the greens and the purples and all those things. So it's like, what is this?
Understood.
So I know it's hers.
Okay. So other than being covered in their wives' hair, what do you think is the biggest issue facing men today?
You facing men?
Men.
I think that machismo culture that has been groomed and grown in Trinidad is not behind us. I think that whilst we still have a lot of men who are willing to and are able to have conversation and to express themselves and to, I don't want to say get in touch with their, it's usually referred to as getting in touch with the effeminate side, but that's not it. They're actually just getting in touch with their own inner selves,
Right. And
I feel that one of the biggest issues facing men is that we continue to be groomed to be these sort of, these sort of negative male stereotypes that are portrayed and that sort of stuff. We continue to have these as the examples and benchmarks set before us. So I think that men need to work on themselves, before they could go anywhere else and do anything and get involved with anybody else. I think we need to work on ourselves because we talk about women going with baggage. Men have real baggage, we may not know about it per se, or may not express it.
Right. So the men have, so thing is, like, the men will have their baggage and they will unpack it with their mothers, with their friends, with their therapists, on social media. A man will have baggage and pack baggage on top of that baggage. He have a suitcase here, a bag here, and next bag.
Yeah.
Bag tied to his leg, and he's going and he's coming with all this baggage.
Correct. And the bad part about that, the horrible part about that is that women still have outlets. I would really love for men to start having outlets, because for the man who doesn't have an outlet, man, when he pops. It's an
experience.
Whether you find your outlet in the gym, or you find it through food, or you find it through fishing, or we need to find healthy ways to deal with our shit.
Agreed, 100%.
Yeah.
What is your favorite and least favorite thing about social media?
My favorite thing, okay, I'll start with my least favorite. My least favorite thing about social media is, the keyboard warriors. It has given people the ability to to pretend that they are braver than they actually are, because the majority of these people say things there that they will never say to anybody in front of their face. It has shown how cowardly the majority of these social media users are.
Catch me outside, how about that?
And it really has, like someone was saying that, you know, the elections just bring out the bad side of people. No, the elections didn't do that, bro. The elections only brought out in people what already existed in them. And
agreed.
Yeah, has been doing that and will continue to do that for the next 5 years before the next general election in this country. People will continue to use social media as their means to do that. So I would love to find a way, or if there was a way where we could just sort of, you know, just gosh, but just get rid of all this toxicity online, boy, you know? So for me, that's the negative. And the positive about social media is that at the same time too, it does have the capacity to balance things out, because like when you look at TikTok, for instance, and you just see that, you know, TikTok is just this ultra happy place for the most part, especially those who are actually going on TikTok to sing or dance. It's just this real ultra happy place, and people from around the world just connecting because I don't know anything about you, but we just like the same dance, or because I just want to have a TikTok video with somebody from a different country. You will, and I'm willing to, and it's incredible. It has united people and connected people in ways never before available, and I love that. I love that about it.
Okay, finish this sentence. Not because I'm Muslim, but
not because I'm Muslim, but charity. Charity is the first word that comes there. Okay. Because I do believe that as much as we've been conditioned to continually look ahead of us, I think that it is the wise man who pauses and looks behind him. Because when you're looking ahead of you, I think that is the mindset that leads to us never being content with what we have, because we could have something here, and then because our vision is always on the next and the next and the next, we're always never content where we are. But if we are able to look behind us and have the person coming up behind us, it makes us appreciate with you know, extra so where we are, what we have, and there's a different level of contentment. So whether your charity comes in the form of giving a smile, or of giving arms or money, or your time or your talent, or however you give, I thoroughly subscribe to that.
I will tell you, now this is probably gonna air after my birthday, but I will tell you, that just shot straight at me.
Sorry.
Are you hearing me?
I like the low-key reminder. You just gave me that it's your birthday.
Let me tell you why. I was talking to my friend earlier this week, and he just wanted to know, like, what did I have planned for my birthday? And at the time, I was saying to him, well, really nothing, because, like, birthdays and New Year's is always hard for me, because I'm that person who around that time I sit down and I ruminate with all the things I haven't done at this age or didn't accomplish this year or where I thought I would have been. And he reminded me, as you just did, to look back and see how far I've come, and look back and see how much I've achieved and how much I have done, and to find peace and happiness in that. So
yeah, you have to continue to be ambitious, but your ambition should never take you away from your contentment space, you know?
Yeah. That's how.
Yeah.
No, I might be pronouncing this wrong. Ikra, is that how you pronounce it?
Ikra,
Ikra is the first commandment handed down by Allah. What's the last book you read?
What is the last book that I read? I can actually pull it off of the shelf. So the last book that I read was this. It's called Fortunate Disaster by Geeta, Outar, Sirjoo. So my little library at the back there is actually an all local library. So I have a library out in the living room with all the other books that I own, and I pride myself on the collection that I've built up over the years. But this is my local library, so everything here is 100% local authors or local subject matters. And this was written, it was a story of a young couple who grew up in India, and you know how India floods and that sort of stuff when the monsoon rolls around, and they got separated by you know, some flash flooding, and they both thought that you know, the other had perished in the floods. And the story basically goes full circle to tell the story of how they navigated the world, grew as adults, fulfilled their promise to each other, to return to India, to find each other, fall in love, and, you know, happily ever after again. But the writing in it was riveting, and I was really surprised of the quality of the writing in this book, knowing that it is a local book, not taking a shot at local authors, but you know, sometimes self-published books may not live up to expectations, but this one, it really touched. And my wife is actually reading this one right now. It's called Back from the Brink by Dr. Wahid Ali, former Senate president and acting president. And basically this will intrigue you because he was talking about his battle with, and you as the doctor here might help me, is it Guillain-Barré syndrome?
Some people pronounce it Guillain-Barré, which is like the English pronunciation, or some people pronounce it Guillain-Barré, which is the French pronunciation, yeah.
Right, so he was talking about his battle with Guillain-Barré syndrome, and I've heard about it before, but apart from learning about the medical condition, his writing is riveting, and I was just amazed that there are Trinidadians, or rather were, because he's deceased now, but that there were Trinidadians not too long ago who spoke like this, and who thought like this, and who put country first. He had a chance to serve under the leadership of Dr. Eric Williams. And when you read this man's work, these are what patriots sound like when you read their works. It's incredible.
I love that.
You know?
All right, so your new series is cool. I love that, by the way, and I love that you have a library of local literature. I will put myself out there and say that the last time I read a locally written book was when I was on the syllabus in secondary school. Yeah, and I will admit part of it is just like once I got into medical school, like all I was reading was textbooks. But yeah, I love that you have a library of local books. Maybe I'll come read it sometime.
Yes, you have to, because I will lend you any other book from my library out in the living area, but you won't get any of these borrowed because I could risk losing an international book, but I can't risk losing the locals because the locals are not guaranteed to be they aren't guaranteed to be any more copies available. So whatever you have, you gotta hold on to.
So my last question: your new series is called Trini Inspirations. Can you leave us with a quote or a word that inspires you?
My favorite quote, since I've known myself from the very first time I heard it till this day, it has remained my favorite quote. And I mean, I've always lived by it, but in the moments when I think about it and I'm able to celebrate it, you realize that that's really what it requires. And it is Que Sera, Sera. And that quote came about because I remember being a boy, and that song used to be playing on the radio, I think, when my mother would listen to John Agitation. Que Sera, Sera, right? Whatever will be, will. And that's basically what it means, you know? Whatever will be, will be. And I think that, you know, sometimes we fight because we have ambition, we fight for things, we want to achieve things, and that's all well and good, but you gotta trust that the universe has a plan for you, whether you believe in a specific deity, a faith, or just the universe and the energies and the cosmos and that sort of stuff, whatever you believe in, you know, you gotta have some faith that you are not without purpose. And as long as you do the best that you can, I am sure that your purpose will be fulfilled, you know. So sometimes when you're fretting and you're beating yourself up and being extra hard on yourself, and, you know, there's no positive self-talk coming and that sort of stuff, just remind yourself, you know, Que Sera, Sera, whatever will be, will be. And this is the Lord's plan could never be undone. You do not have the capacity to undo his plan. As much as you have freedom of choice and free will and whatever, you do not have the capacity to undo the Lord's plan. So if you keep that in mind, Que Sera, Sera, whatever will be, will be.
I love that, Fazeer. Thank you so much. Now, on that note, can you let us know where can we find you, where can we reach you, where can people get access to your content, and what can we look forward to next on Trini Inspirations? Can you give us a sneak peek?
So you can find me in Gastro because you owe me some wings.
I do, that's true.
Right, everyone else can find us on Fuzz Events and Entertainment Limited, FUZZ, Fuzz Events and Entertainment. We trade sometimes as Fuzz E Entertainment, but that E always stands for events. So Fuzz Events and Entertainment, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and our website is actually under construction as well.
Nice.
Inspiration, basically we are trying to tell the story of average everyday Trinbagonians who are doing incredible things diligently and are an inspiration to the rest of the country, because when things are bad, sometimes all you need is a little inspiration to cause you to lift your head, chin up, chest out, that sort of stuff, and get ready to face another day. And in light of economic circumstances and of course the global pandemic and all else that has befallen Trinidad, the floods and everything else, 2020 is just a ravenous kind of year, but I don't know
Listen to me.
2020 we need inspiration, but I believe in product. I believe in the idea that of Trinidad and Tobago, and that's why it's not inspiration but Trini Inspiration, because I know that we don't have to look far for inspiration. There are many people who are doing incredible things, and sometimes they get lost because the focus of the media's attention is usually on whatever is the next sensationalized headline, the murder, the contract, the corruption, the politics, the whatever, and amazing people get, they get left behind. So I just want to highlight those stories, and not in the traditional media landscape where they air once and that's it, but it's being produced specifically for digital, so that we could balance and sort of counter all that negativity. At least there's something there, So let's put it this way: the more powerful Neo becomes, the more powerful Mr. Smith has to become, because yin and yang must balance, right? So we are producing Trini Inspiration, and this is really in response to all the negativity online, because we are just trying to balance it out and spread some good online. So I hope that your viewers, I hope that your friends, I hope that your colleagues, I hope that they will all log on and check it out. Rendelina Reviews debuted with us last week, and this week we've got the story of Hijabi Fitness TT, who's leading the female Muslim fitness revolution in Trinidad. And
wow!
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, and week 3, I'll give you the other 2. Week 3, we've got Sensei Marva from the Rayudan Dojo in Shikwanas. She has been doing some incredible work, and I'll give you an insight into her story. She has been doing so much social work that it is now costing her family.
Lovely. All right, so Fazeer, thank you so much for joining us today on Fizzers Tease. I will love to have you on again, and I know that I will. You already mentioned where people can find you. Thank you for coming on and tell your beautiful wife. I said hello.
My beautiful wife knew that you were going to say that, and so she already prompted me to respond to you by telling you that she would much prefer something from the cross than a simple hello. She's not that simple.
This boy. Love Fazeer, I love it. I love it. Alright guys, so don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell notification. Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Fizzers Tease. I had a great time chatting with Fazeer. I hope you guys understand why I had him as my first guest. He's so full of knowledge, so insightful, and an absolute motivation, and a really great friend. Leave any comments you have below, any questions you have for us, any topics you'd like to see Fazeer and I do on either of our channels, the way we did the Hinduism series on his channel, the way we did this interview on mine, and I can't wait for you guys to catch the next episode. Love you for watching. Bye!